Hello, I am so excited. Sunday night version of I Have Something to Say. Got my new swag, by the way, and I am so excited about Sky Gore because I've been reading about her, and she is a remarkable woman. And I love her courage. And I love the fact that she loved her dad so much and took the time to set aside her life and go take care of her dad. So I'm going to bring her on and so excited. Ready, show and stream.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
How's Australia?
It's cold.
It's cold. What's the temperature?
It's probably about 7 degrees at the moment.
Uh-uh.
Yeah,
91
where I
here
am.
today. 91 here today. You're jealous?
It's crazy.
That's unbelievable. So just get right into I have a lot to I wanted to talk to you about. How was your life before the stroke? What were you doing?
Um, it was busy. So like I worked full time. That's pretty much a lot of what I did. I worked full time. I was working sometimes 6 to 7 days a week. And yeah, when I was work like I'd work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday sometimes, and then sometimes I'd do the weekend. So I was a workaholic in all honesty.
Yeah. So tell me about your dad. What did he do?
Well, he used to play AFL football, so
Uh-uh.
yeah.
I
Um,
love, yeah.
so he got injured when he was younger, so his was on a disability pension. So he was just sort of at home and chilling and that before the stroke. He played darts, so like he was a really good competition dart player as well.
I love darts, but I'm not that good.
Me either.
So tell me about the day your life changed. Just,
So basically, we were in America for 6 weeks on a holiday, me and Luke, my fiance, and we got back. And once we got back, 3 days later, I got a phone call at work from my dad's friend Jerry, and he said that your dad's in the hospital. We think he's had a stroke. So I rushed to the hospital, left work, like just walked out the door and said, I've got to go. And I don't ever do that. Like I'm not like that. And I rocked up at the hospital and they said, oh no, he hasn't had a stroke. No, I looked at the nurse because I was waiting and waiting and waiting. No one would talk to me. So that
uh-uh.
was really frustrating. They were trying to talk to dad, but dad couldn't talk. So we got there and I said to her, so he hasn't had a stroke? And she said, no, he hasn't had a stroke. I said, well, what's going on then? Why can't he talk? And she said that he had an AVM, which is a twisted blood clot on the opposite side of his brain. So it was on the left hand side of his brain. And they said that that was the reason that, what was happening was happening. And then he got flown to Melbourne. So I had to jump in a car with Luke and we traveled 3 hours to Melbourne. And we got to Melbourne and like dad had gone by air ambulance. So he was in a helicopter and we were in the car. So he got there before us, and they said that they put him into emergency surgery. And I had to sign a form just to say like they could go ahead and do that. And they put a rod up through his groin up to his brain, and they sucked the clot out of his brain. Um, and they basically said like we don't know how he's going to come out of it. Like he could be in a vegetative state. He could never like he might not even wake up. We're not sure. We've just got to wait and see. So that was interesting.
Describe your emotions at that time.
Well, I think I went into shock. Like, I remember being in the car driving to the hospital at the start, to like coming back from the hospital, and then like as soon as I got to the hospital, like Jerry was there, but as soon as I got there, Jerry left. So I was all by myself. So that was kind of scary. And then when they said that he had to go to the hospital and like be flown to Melbourne, like I was just in panic mode. I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, what am I going to do? Like, so that
Yeah.
was really frightening.
You know, my kids were coming from all over the world, and I had one daughter that was in the city I was flown to in the air ambulance, and she was waiting on me because I couldn't say anything, and she was shocked that I couldn't say anything. She said, "Why doesn't he talk?" I
Yeah.
couldn't. Yeah. And how much time did your dad spend in the hospital all total?
So he was in Melbourne for about 8 days. So they had him on like every machine you can imagine, like oxygen. They had him on they had a nasal gastric tube down his throat, so because he couldn't eat. They had him connected to heart rate monitors. So he was in Melbourne for 7 to 8 days, and we were waiting on a transfer bed back to Warrnambool, which is where we live, in Victoria. So we got back to there, and we were on the medical ward. We were there for probably another 3 days, and then Dad was in hospital for 3 months in rehab. So he was doing intense rehab, what they call intense rehab. And then he got transferred from there. Once he got out of there, he then went to Mercy, which is like an aged care facility, but they do like transfer rehab. So he was there for another 2 months. So in total, nearly six months.
Wow.
Six to 6.5 months.
That's a long time. And
Yeah.
if you had to describe what the doctors told you about recovery, what did they tell you?
So they basically said that they'd come along and they literally would lift up his arm like this and just drop it, and it would just like fall.
No way.
And they said to me, like, every day they come in, they go around, there's no change, there's no change, there's no change. He's fully paralyzed on the right side. He's had a left-hand stroke.
Did they really drop his arm?
Yeah. Yep.
No way.
And they would literally, this guy came in and he would like push against Dad's leg and he's like, move your leg, bro. And he was yelling at him. I'm like, oh my God, like calm down. Like, dude, like he's like unconscious. And then like they come in and they would say like, there's no change, there's no change, there's no change. He's not gonna, he's probably not gonna walk again. Like they actually said that they thought that where his stroke was, it was his right arm was never going to move again. They said his right arm and his right leg would more than likely never move again, but his speech had a 50-50 chance of coming back. That's what we were told at the time in Melbourne.
They said basically he would never walk, eat, didn't give.
So when he come back from Melbourne to Warrnambool at the hospital, they basically said to me, he's not going to eat. He won't eat. You're gonna have to put a peg tube inside of him. We're gonna have to do that in a couple of days because the nasal gastric tube can only stay in for like 7 days to 2 weeks. And I was like, well, it's been changed because it fell out a few times because they were doing physio and it got tangled and got ripped out, so they had to keep putting it back in.
No.
And then they said that he's not going to walk, he's not going to talk, he's not going to eat, and they basically said like you need to make a decision which peg tube you want put in. And I said I'm not doing that. You haven't even tried him on food, so how do you know he can't eat? Wow. And when I said that, the next day they gave me literally a stick with a sponge on the like that big on the end of it, and we dipped it in ice. And he had to suction off the ice from the sponge and try and learn to swallow again. And it started like that. And then probably a week later, like she kept coming in saying like, oh, there's no improvement. There's no improvement. I said, well, try him on food. So we were literally getting like two fruits, which are like squares of peaches, like little peaches, and like making him eat, like chew on them because they were soft. And it started like that. And eventually we got to a point where it was like he was eating like pureed meals. And from the pureed meals, he still had the nasal gastric tube in, but they tried him on one and then he started eating. And from that point, we then got him from like breakfast with a puree meal to breakfast and lunch, and then breakfast, lunch and tea. And that was in the space of maybe 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. So they said like from 3 weeks before that he wouldn't eat ever again, and then he was on pureed meals. Yeah.
You know, how did that make you feel as a daughter? That
I was like this, like they don't know him. And I said it from the start, they don't know him. I know him. Like they know numbers, they know statistics, they know, like all the medical stuff, fair enough. But like they don't know him as a person. So you can't judge one person off 12 other people. Like everybody's different. Like he's got drive. I know what he can do. He's going to prove these people wrong. Like,
say hi to my friends in the States. Hi, Jenny.
hello.
Serena, Carolyn, how you doing? Um, did you ever hear of aphasia before he had aphasia?
No. No, I actually, like, when they said the word aphasia, I was like, he's got what? They said aphasia and apraxia, so I was like, what's, like, that sounded serious. I'm like, what does that mean? Like,
yeah, I was sitting there listening. I couldn't talk, and they were talking to my kids. Your dad has been diagnosed. So I set up, diagnosed with what? Ear.
yeah.
Apraxia, motor apraxia, dysarthria, and aphasia. And I didn't know what any of that was.
No. I was really sitting there like, what? Like,
you said he would prove them wrong. How did you know? How do
well,
you
I know my dad,
so much confidence?
He's like me. He doesn't like to be told that you can't do something. So, like, if like, for example, when I was little, if he'd say, like, he'd make me tea and he'd say, like, you won't eat all that. So he knew by saying that I was like, I want to prove you wrong. I'll show you. And then I'd eat it all.
Reverse psychology.
Yeah.
The bad game.
It worked. But when they said, like, they kept coming in the room to me saying, like, he won't do this, he won't do that, this is not going to happen. It's like, you don't know him. Like, he will, if you say you can't do something, he's going to prove you wrong every day of the week. Like,
that's amazing.
I don't know if that's like inbred in people or if it's just like an Aussie thing or what, but like if someone says you can't do something, like, no way, you're not going to have the final say on that. Like,
I talked to you a little earlier. You're still engaged, Luke, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And, how did you adjust to this change? Because you had a very busy life. And how did you do all this?
I think you sort of adjust to the situation. So, like, I was thinking about it the other night. Like, it's like it's kind of a blessing in disguise, so to speak. So, like, I was so flat chat with work that, like, standing in a building trying to sell, like, I used to work at a sports store, so standing in a building selling shoes to people that sometimes don't appreciate it, to being at home looking after someone that does.
Wow.
I think it outweighs what I was doing. So it's like, maybe I was finished with that journey at the shoe store and stuff, and now, like, I'm on the next journey. Like, in terms of Luke, like, Luke's known Dad for 8 years, so Luke was straight away on board. We just had to sort of figure out, like, what we were dealing with and, like, see how it panned out, because each day, like, obviously with strokes and stuff like that, like, it does get better. I was told that from the start from a few people, but, like, you don't believe it when you read it or when people tell you, but as you go through it, it is true. It does get better. It just takes a bit of time.
Can I ask you one question? Sky, how did you get so knowledgeable about everything that you're talking about? You must have done some homework.
Well, the funny thing is, when I was in Melbourne, like, we were freaking out because we didn't really know what was happening. So, like, we went on, I went on this Facebook page. I was literally searching Google, like, I went through like 12 pages on Google, and people don't do that. Like, usually your answer's on the first page, but I went through 12 like pages, and then I went on Facebook and I was like, well, Facebook's got everything on it, so we'll see what other people have been through. And I went on to the ARC site, and I had a lady called Anna. She reached out to me. She's from Adelaide in Australia. And she was going through the exact same thing pretty much with her husband, Tony. and she really like gave me some insight into like what was to come. Like every stroke's different, and every person is different, but like what she was going through and how she was dealing with it, and that like she was in the present and like in the future, and I was in the present dealing with like what was like slowly going to end up in her sort of situation, like how it was going to pan out. So like she kind of really helped me a lot to get through the early stages.
Yep. So, did you have any really bad moments when? Did you walk out of the room and break down crying? Because my daughter did. My Janie did. Kobe did. Lauren did. That was a stressful situation.
In the early days, yeah, like it was like we didn't understand, the dad didn't understand. So at that point, because his brain had, been damaged and that, he was misunderstanding some of the stuff we were saying, and like we'd write stuff down, and I knew he could read. They tried to tell me he couldn't read, and I knew he could read because I'd written something in Melbourne, and the way he reacted to what I wrote in Melbourne was spot on. So the fact that they kept telling me he can't read, he's got global aphasia, I was like, that's absolute bull dust. Like, he doesn't, he understands, but I didn't understand that some of the words that you use, they like the knowledge is still there, but the understanding of what the word means,
Yes.
it gets crossed. So his reactions to some of the stuff would upset us because we didn't understand why he was upset.
Okay.
So that was kind of like, it went around a bit of a circle. So like, and because you're tired and stuff like that too, like you get emotional as well.
Yeah, I had a lot of emotions. I was angry. I was frustrated. I know I cracked my kids. I'm sure I was not as nice as I could have been or would have been if I hadn't had the stroke. I just was so torn up. I couldn't understand what was happening. And
Yeah.
when I went to the hospital about a year ago, and I walked into the trauma center that where they treated me, and I walked up and I said, "Do you remember me? I was on the stroke floor." "You're talking." "Yes, I am, but you remember? Are you that guy that wrote best-selling books and spoke for a living? You can't talk." And all of a sudden, they went and got everybody. "Come look," like I was a prop. "Come look, he's talking, he's talking." And they said, "We never get to see the benefit of somebody that comes back and talks." They
Yep.
were so proud. And I sat down and told them, "Do you understand why I was so upset? I don't think you do."
No.
I was upset because I could understand every word you said. I was upset because I was trying to say, when I was saying one, 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 I
Yeah.
was trying to say, "I want something."
Yeah.
So everybody gathered around, and I had a class right there on the stroke floor because people don't understand how bad it is. So let me ask you one question. Take some time and give any advice for caregivers that you may be willing to share, please.
I think you just need to take it a day at a time, and I think you just need to sort of uh, make sure that you keep pushing the person, like not to a point where they get frustrated, but like to a point where um, you sort of motivate them to want to keep going. Like some people, like I suppose
Yeah.
in terms of people with strokes and stuff like that, they get to a point where it's like they want to give up and they want to quit because there's so much work to do
Oh, yeah.
that it's like, I've already done this once, why would I want to do it again? So I think when you are sort of dealing with someone that's had a stroke, it's like if you can push them that little bit to know where the line is, to not cross the line to upset them, but to push them to want to do more, to want to get better. And once they start seeing improvement, it's the same with anything in life. once you start seeing improvement with stuff, you'll want to keep doing it. You'll want to keep, striving and moving forward.
Yeah. When my mom was my hero, she just called me up and said, "You're going to talk." I was
Yeah.
listening, but I couldn't say anything. My mom was like you with your dad, but
Yep.
my mom called me
Yep.
every day, and she encouraged me. But one of the things that my mom said when I couldn't talk, she said, when you start practicing, and you are, vary the routine, don't get bored.
Yeah.
So I did different exercises every day, and it helped me a lot. So I would read sometimes, I would write sometimes, I could say very little words. I recorded my first video June 21st, 2018, and had my stroke May 13th, 2018, to wish my dad happy Father's Day. And you should go back and watch that video. Very difficult. I took 118 takes to do 1 minute. 118 takes to do 1 minute. It was worth every bit of it.
It shows you like how far you've come though too. Like hard work pays off, and it's hard work. Like it's hours and hours and hours and hours of the same thing, and it's repetitive and it's boring, but it's like it works. It works.
It does. Um, I want to know about Terry. Tell me what he's had some victories along the way. Can you just share some? You shared the eating tube. They were going to do that. You said no. What else?
Well, when he first come back to Warrnambool, they said like the tube wouldn't come out, so the tube we got it out eventually. So that took. I was keeping a little log actually when this was all happening, sort of to try and get my emotions down, because I was getting, I had my moments where I was upset. Everybody cries. I was writing it down. It took probably about a month and a bit for the tube to finally come out. Like that was a pretty big milestone, because I said to him, once the tube comes out of your nose, the thing that they were keeping in to feed him because his nutrients wasn't up, they took that out. And as soon as that got taken out, I knew that that was going to be able to help him learn to walk, because the tube was in the way, so to speak. So because he was connected to this machine, he couldn't go where he wanted to go. He couldn't go to the toilet by himself. He had to have people come in and help him. So as soon as that was out of the way, yeah, we were able to get him to like start walking, and like the physio got him up straight away to walk. He started walking straight away. He just needed some adjustments with his balance.
Yep.
So they said he would never walk again. They said that he would move his arm again. So in Melbourne, when they were doing that test with the arm just flopping, I actually made him lift his arm. I said up, 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 down, 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 up, 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 down, 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 down. And that was monotonous. Like that was, but it worked. It got him to move his fingers. I seen his fingers moving and his toes moving, and I was like, they don't know what they're taught. As soon as I seen that, I'm like, they have no idea. Like, and they kept saying there's no improvement, but they were in the room for 20 minutes. I was there all day, like even in the hospital in Warrnambool, I was there from like 5 o'clock in the morning right through to like 8 o'clock, and then I'd go to work for 8 hours, and then I'd come back and stay to 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and then I'd go home and go to sleep, and then I'd do the same thing, and that was months. Like that was just like crazy.
The fact that you did that and replaced that memory,
Yeah.
up, 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 down, 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 is so important. The mind is so amazing. Neuroplasticity, you can train anything.
And they kept saying to me, "There's like he's not moving. There's nothing. He's not moving his right side." I said, "You're not seeing it. You're not here. Like you can't." I had to wrestle him at one point to stay in the bed because he wanted to go to the toilet. He had no idea where the toilet was. I was like, "You don't know. Like you've got no idea."
Was he a good football player?
Yes, apparently. I wasn't around when that was happening, but apparently I've heard some stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting enough, have you always been this strong, courageous?
Uh, yeah, yeah. I think this has sort of opened my eyes up a little bit to like what matters in life and what's trivial. Because like before, it was always about like working and making money and like being ahead of the game and being not so much better than other people because I'm not like that, but like coming from something where you've got nothing to making sure that you're not in that same situation when you're an adult. So like work
Yep.
hard, play hard. But when you go through something like this, it's kind of like nothing else matters. Like everything else, like your shoes, your clothes, what you wear, your car you drive, all that sort of stuff, it doesn't matter. It's like you have people sort of, um, and life is a lot more important than the things that you own and the things that you have.
Say that again. It's a lot. Say it again.
So basically, like the things that you have, so your car, your house, your shoes, none of that's talked about when people pass away. What's talked about is what people have inside of them and who they are as a person. So that sort of woke me up to the fact like what I was doing before wasn't as important as what I'm doing now.
That's amazing. I drew a cartoon recently, and I said, "I you're never seen a hearse pulling a U-Haul. They don't come with a luggage rack,
That's
you
exactly
know,
right.
and you can't take it with you."
Yeah.
And when I had my stroke, I was a little bit of personal reflection. I was saying, why me? Why me? At the pinnacle of my career, why me? And then I realized, why not me?
Yeah.
Why not me? And I sell something more important and it's free. Hope is what I sell today. Hope
Yep.
that you can do it. I'm a living example. Your father is. And I love your story. It's just really, really uh, inspiring to me. And I really appreciate you sharing that. When we talked earlier, tell me about running negative people out of the room. Tell me about that.
So basically, in Melbourne, there was a lot of people that would come in, like doctors and stuff, and they were always. I found a lot of them very negative. So they were always like, "He's not going to do this. This isn't going to happen." And then we got back to Warrnambool, and they were basically me and my auntie were sitting around a table, and there was about 8 or 9 specialists, and we only had about half an hour at this point because I was still working. So we were sitting there and the doctor was basically gabbering on about what aphasia is and what kind of stroke he'd had. I already knew all this stuff from Melbourne. I'd heard this multiple times, so I was just like, get to the point. Like, um and they all basically went around the table and was like, he's not going to eat, he's not going to walk, he's not going to talk, this is like. And I just said, you don't know him. Like, I literally like basically told him to get out of the room. I didn't want to hear it. They were just negative. Like, you don't want negative people around when people are trying to recover.
Yeah, I had a lot of negative people that I couldn't talk to because I couldn't. And I wanted them out of the room. Funny story, I threw a pen at the neurologist, get out.
Yeah,
I pointed because I was so annoyed that they were telling me everything I couldn't do.
yeah,
You're going to have to find, your dad's going to have to find a new way to communicate. He'll never talk. Nobody can measure the heart of a
that's
man
exactly
or
right.
a woman that wants something really bad. you
That's
know,
exactly right.
There's
If you
no
want
way.
something bad enough, you'll do anything to get it. That's pretty much what it comes down to. And the fact that those people, they know numbers and stuff, but they don't know every person individually. So, like, what someone's made of is
Exactly.
completely different to what they're reading in a textbook.
Can you tell me how well known is aphasia in Australia or stroke? So,
Not well. Stroke, like I think it's talked about, but it's not talked about a lot. Like you hear about heart attacks and like the signs for a heart attack. Obviously, cancer is a big one, but strokes aren't talked about a lot. Like I didn't even know what a like when they said Dad's had a stroke. I was like, what's a stroke? Like what's aphasia? Like what's apraxia? It just
Exactly.
sounded foreign. Like it was like what does that mean? Like and then they had to explain it, like the motor and the motor side of his body wasn't working properly, and then in order for that you
All
had to
jumbled
teach,
up. Yep.
yeah, you had to like get the motor side of things moving to get the other side of things moving, because he knew everything was in here, it just had to get down to here, like it wasn't connected.
I tell all people all the time that for me and your dad to form a sentence, we have to think of it. Oh, do I want to say it? What verb do I want to use? I What do I want to start it with? I or not? Do I want to ask a question and pray to God I don't get interrupted, that nobody guesses, and get it to my mouth in real time every time I talk?
Yeah.
Every time. Every time I talk, I have to do that every time.
And we take advantage of it too. Like people that I haven't had a stroke. I just have seen, the outcome of a stroke. But I think we take advantage of the fact that it's so natural, it's so easy. We don't have to think about it. Like we just talk. I'm not even thinking right now to talk to you, but you have to really work hard to get the words out. People don't understand that. Like to us, it's just like what? Like we don't understand because it's like it's easy, it's second nature. But like for yourself and Dad, like it takes a lot more time to get the brain to work how it's supposed to work and to divert where the damage has been done to get the words out to say what you need to say, whereas us, it's not to say us and you, but people that haven't had a stroke,
Those,
we don't understand as much because there's no damage there to have to work around.
when I first started talking, just saying a little phrase, I would sit there and say, I want to, 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 I want to go, I want to go, I want to go, I want to go. And that was a victory for me. I couldn't say where I wanted to go, but I could say, I want to go. So that's like winning. So I'm going to play a little game, and you ready?
I'm ready.
How important is mindset
It's
for
extremely
you and
important.
Terry?
You have to be in the right mindset to want to achieve a better outcome. Like he could have given up straight away and said stuff this, like I'm damaged, but he didn't. So I think if you've got a good mindset and you've got people that are around you with good mindsets, it'll
Exactly.
have a better outcome. If you've got people that are negative around you, it's not going to do any good. It's dampening. The person's already upset, so why would you want negative energy around that on top of it? Like it's just going to add to the pile. If you've got positive people around you, lifting you up, it makes it a lot better.
I had no name to be mentioned, but I had somebody that was around me, and they would interrupt me every time I tried to talk. And what annoyed me more, they would go and talk to my son like I couldn't hear. He's going to be, hey, I can't believe your dad can't talk. He's never going to get any better. So I listened to that about 2 days. I said, bye bye. I just couldn't do it.
I had a family friend that come to the hospital, and I'd been up since probably 3 o'clock that morning. Went to the hospital to see Dad. Went to work all day. Come back, and I hadn't even entered the hospital, and he grabbed me and he said, "Your dad's not going to home. He'll end up going into a nursing home. You're going to have to sell your house,
Uh-uh.
and he's not safe to go home because he'll stick a fork in a PowerPoint and he'll end up electrocuting himself." So like I was tired at this point, so I like was extremely upset, and I was like, I walked in there, I'm like, I don't want you near Dad. That was the last time I seen this person as well. I don't want you near him. You're not to come back here. Like, you have no idea. And I said, as far as a nursing home is concerned, you can get real. Like, he's 66 years of age. He's not 96.
You know, I really admire you so much. Somebody said, if hope dies, everything else will follow. Grit and passion triumphs logic every time. That's true. That's really true. You ready?
I'm ready.
Determination. You got a ton of it.
Determined. If you don't, I suppose if you don't have determination, like, if you don't have a goal, like, you're not going anywhere, you're not going in a forward motion, you're sort of stuck. So in order to achieve something, you've got to be determined that you can do it. Like, no one's going to tell you can't do something. Like, you know yourself. Like,
You know, when I had my stroke, and I'm sure it's the same thing with your dad, thank God you were there, because if you have to listen to doctors, and I was told, if you don't get better in the first 6 months, you can't get better at all. Did you hear that?
they tell you that. They even say that with the speech pathology.
I
They
know.
say that the apraxia they treat in the first 6 months because that's proven to improve in the first 6 months, and after that it won't improve. And then the aphasia is the next 6 months, and once that's done, then it'll go really slow, and there won't be much. There could be improvement, but there won't be a lot, and that's about as good as it's going to get.
I'm not bragging, but I went from one word. I have added 32,000 words to my vocabulary in 2 years.
You're living proof that they're wrong.
They're wrong. They build new cells in your brain every day. Every neuroplasticity. It's wired, it's fired. It's fired, it's wired. Just
That's
practice.
exactly right.
Practice.
It's like when you're a kid, you spend like what prep, or in Australia, prep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in primary school, and then you go to high school. It takes by the time you're a little kid, it takes you 3 to 4 years to even start learning to talk properly. So
exactly.
You've already got the knowledge there. So it's obviously gonna take time to get it back. Like,
You know, when I liken it to crawl, when I was crawling, a little baby, I stumbled sometimes. I did. I fell over. My mom stand me back up. I would walk again. I would stumble. Crawl, stand, walk, run.
Yep.
I didn't shortcut the system.
No.
It doesn't work that way. I'd had to do the work.
You've got to, exactly. You've got to take it step by step. You can't just go from 1 to 100 and expect to get results. You've got to do it. You've got to climb the ladder. Like,
it is exactly right. I asked you earlier, did you maintain a sense of humor? Because if you don't, this can get really hard.
Oh yeah.
Really.
You've got to, I think, I mean, it was hard to kind of keep a sense of humor at times, because it was like, this is crazy. Like, it's literally like your whole world gets ripped out from underneath you, and you're picking up little pieces of what was left of it, trying to figure out what to do next. Like you go from this normal to like, oh my God, like, what do I do now? Like, but I think if you keep, some sort of positivity, and try and have a bit of a laugh. Trust me, it was hard at times, but like, I think if you try and keep some sort of sense of humor in your bubble at that time, it sort of helps.
My mom and Kobe and my daughter Janie, my son Ryan, all my kids, they tried to keep me laughing. They brought things I was interested in, whether it be music, whether it be things I like to read, what I like to do. And that was a real win for me, because people don't know it. When you're all alone, and I'm sure your dad was alone sometimes, the mind doesn't quit working.
No.
And I'm telling you, sometimes I ran a marathon and it took 10 minutes. I felt isolated, lonely, sad, frustrated, anger.
And it's
And
hard too, I suppose, because you have all this stuff that you want to say and you know what you're trying to say, but your body won't allow you to do it. So it's like it's all trapped inside your head. Like, and then you've got people in the room telling you this and that and this and that. And you can't even reply properly. Like, and then you know what you want to say, you just can't get it out. Like, it's got to be frustrating at times.
it is. It is. Anything that will make me laugh is a good thing because I have I have maintained my sense of humor because I go back and listen. I have the phone call that I called my speech therapist with. By the way, I didn't get speech therapy for 7 weeks, not at
Wow.
all. So I call her. I had the number and I have that phone. It sounded like this. And she showed up. Her name was Christine, and she said, "Remember this. I want you to have this. Remember how far you are about to go." Because she knew I was obsessed
Yeah.
wanting to talk, and she could tell it. And I did a speech in Destin at a caregivers place and aphasia training center, and I made all the nurses and the speech therapists cover their mouth with tape. And I said, I want you to know. Do you know the answer to this question? Raise your hands. Oh, welcome to my world. You can't say anything.
Yeah. It gives them a bit more of an insight into what you're actually going through.
And it's just hard. But how do you feel about belief?
Well, it's funny you say that. When we got back from America, this was about 3 days before Dad had his stroke. So we were in America for 6 weeks. We'd extended it because the NBA season started a bit later. And we got back, and 3 days later, Dad had his stroke. But the day Dad had his stroke, the day after, he was meant to travel 8 hours to Adelaide in a car by himself with no phone. So, because Dad doesn't know how to use like mobile phones and stuff like that, he wasn't raised sort of in that era.
Yeah.
So he was supposed to travel by himself in a car. And if the stroke had been the day after, he wouldn't be here. And if it had been earlier, we wouldn't have been around. Like I live with him, so he would have been by himself in a house, and he wouldn't have been able to dial the phone or anything like that. So he wouldn't be here. So belief, I think, obviously that happened for some kind of reason. He's here for a reason because he had every opportunity to not be here. So
Funny thing, we have the same story. I was in Double Bay, right outside of Sydney, doing a speaking engagement for Carroll's Automotive Group. And I flew back 14 and a half hours and landed in LA, dog tired, visited with my son, took the red eye to Atlanta, waited 4 hours layover, got to Monroe, Louisiana. 3 hours later, I've been on the plane, all told, like 30 hours in layovers. I had to drive. I drove to my parents' house. If I had had my stroke anywhere else, I was in a hotel traveling week after week after week. Nobody would have found me till the next morning.
that's exactly right.
I'm telling you, I was where I was supposed to be. I was at my mom's
Yep.
on Mother's Day, and I thank the good Lord, I was there. I
Yep.
was You know, it's crazy. And
And the thing is, I think like with stuff like that, if it was meant to go the other way, it would have went the other way. It had every opportunity to, but it didn't. So like, it didn't for a reason. Like,
that's true, so true. You're making me emotional, by the way. Don't tell anybody. Never quit.
I think if you quit, there's there's a saying, quitters never win and winners never quit. So if you're never gonna win if you quit. Well, like, you've come this far and you've been given a second chance. You could have, you could have died, but you didn't die. So the fact that you're alive, you need to do something with that, whether it be like a little step forward or a big step forward, or like slow little steps to make a big step. Like, you've got to take advantage of the fact that you're still here. If you quit and you give up, there's people that pass away and stuff from early ages and that, and they don't get a second chance. People get second chances for a reason. You need to take advantage of that and do something good with it.
How much time do you spend just interacting with your dad?
A lot.
Just tell me about that interaction with your dad.
So generally, like, wake up and sort of get him sorted with his tablets and his breakfast and that. Like, dad can shower himself and that, and that's another thing that they said he wouldn't be able to do. And then we have breakfast, sit out in the veranda when it's nice. So because it's come to winter, it's a bit harder at the moment, but the next few days are supposed to be all right down here. So I sit there for probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours. And then sometimes he'll have a nap or he'll have speech therapy, and I sort of sit in on the speech therapy because, like, he gets homework. So if he doesn't understand what to do, then I'll, re-infirm it. And then, yeah, we'll finish speech therapy, and sometimes he'll have a nap and I'll just watch a TV show or go for a walk. And then, yeah, we have tea, and yeah, so a lot, nearly probably 12, 18 hours.
I saw him a lot of photos. He worked really hard to be able to walk, didn't he?
Oh yeah. When he was in Melbourne, they stood him up the first time. So he was trying to get out of the bed, but he didn't realize he couldn't walk at that point. So they basically got him out of the bed and they stood him up, and they were shuffling his feet with their feet. So he didn't know how to step. So they were like, I remember them pushing their foot with his foot to move him so that he would step, because he didn't understand what a step, like what to do to step. Then he got back to Warrnambool and I was at work, and my auntie come running through the door, and I was panicking thinking, oh my God, what's happened? And she had a video of him walking down the hallway.
Oh, wow.
So that was the first time he'd walked, and that was only probably about a week and a half since he was in Melbourne since the stroke. So he went from not being able to move his foot to walking down a hallway.
That's amazing. So many little victories add up to so many big things. It's just amazing. I believe stroke victims, aphasia, have so much courage inside of them. I do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just have met so many people that inspire me in so many ways. And I just get up every day in awe of these people. I have a good friend, Kayla Fredericks, 39 surgeries. Gabby.
That's crazy.
Oh my God. I'm telling you, 39 surgeries. The mom, I love her, Carla, had to say goodbye to her daughter 39 times.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. But she is this most strong, fierce person. I'm just overwhelming how much courage she has. So I met a lot of people that Gabby, the same thing, both the same thing, Bill Green, the same thing, just amazing people. So I'm going to ask you a question. You have to go sit down with a teenager, 17, 18 years old, and answer this question. What's the greatest thing you have ever learned in your lifetime?
That material items and money and things like that don't matter. That the thing that matters is life and being happy and, you know, being loved and loving other people, because that sort of stuff's not talked about when you pass away. Like, you don't get talked to, oh, this person had a killer car and this person had this amazing job in a 2-story house that was full of bling and had all this gold, and people don't talk about that stuff. They talk about the fact that what you did and, you know, like who you were as a person, not what you owned. So in life, I think, you know, it's nice to have good things and you know, work hard and stuff, but don't forget the reason that you're here.
Exactly. Can I encourage you to do something?
Yeah.
You, first of all, you're one of the most well-spoken people. You need to write a book because you've learned more than just dealing with the stroke. You've learned so much more than that. And the lessons has come through turmoil. And I'm really, really proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Everybody should have a daughter like you. Um, when I get over there, and I am going to get over there. I'm going to meet Terry and give you a hug. And hey, Luke,
That'd be great.
fill in this blank. It is never too late to.
It's never too late to keep trying to get better, and it's never too late to help other people.
You know, my granddaddy said, it's never too late to become the person you might have been.
Yep.
I believe 2.0 Paul I like better.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I fell victim to having all this stuff.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter a thing, a hoot.
No.
It's just stuff. It's just stuff. What
That's
matters
exactly right.
is a warm hug. What matters is friendships with your, you know, friends with friends, telling stories, laughing. What matters?
Memories.
Memories.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. So I'm just so impressed. So I have to do this. You know, I've spent a lot of time in Australia, a lot of time, and Aussie slang. Some of it I can't say at all. I'm not going to because I would get off the air. But you ready to play a little game? What's
Yeah.
a bludger?
A bludger is basically someone that takes advantage, or like we basically refer to as a bludger as a person that doesn't work and is on the dole, so on Centrelink or benefits.
The first time I heard this, I said, "What are you saying? What's what?" Arvo.
The afternoon. So like today would be Monday Arvo.
Monday Arvo.
Yeah.
It sounds like an avocado.
It could be an avocado. No, that would be called an avo.
Oh, so same word but different pronunciation.
Yeah, so it's like you take the end of the word off, like Sunday. Sunday is Sunday. So Sunday Arvo.
Sunday. I can't say it.
So like you'd say like Sunday Arvo.
Sunday Arvo.
Yeah. That's close.
Okay. Well, I got aphasia. What's this?
Ripper. That's like good stuff.
Just use it in a sentence.
You bloody ripper.
Okay. What?
A bottle-o, that's like a where you buy alcohol.
Oh, so if fair dinkum. Really? What's that?
Fair dinkum, that's like for real?
For real?
Fair, like I'm fair dinkum, like I'm being honest, like that's truth.
Ah, what's a Tinnies? That's a beer, right?
That's like two different things. So that's like either like a can of beer or like a tinny. If you take off the S, a tinny is like a metal boat.
Really? It's a boat.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I know this because I'm good at it.
A Barbie, that's a barbecue.
And the
So like
last
you'd have a Barbie on the weekend.
a Bobby on the weekend. Come over tomorrow say it.
Sunday out. So you'd have a come for a Barbie on Sunday Arvo.
Ah, got it. Okay. And stay for Brekkie.
Brakky, so that's breakfast. So you'd say like, do you want some brekky? I actually say that every morning.
You do? You
Yeah.
want some Brekkie. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit of Australia with us, and thank you for being who you are and doing so much for your dad. And I believe you have a really good story to tell, and you ought to tell it. I am so honored, privileged that you came on the show. You were scaring me to death. I thought, oh, what happened to Sky?
Oh no, I was always going to be here. I'm a person of my word.
I got it. So until next Monday, be blessed. And I say to everybody, may the speech be with you, because you never know when it's not going to be. I woke up and I couldn't talk. And do the work and practice. Have people like you around to give encouragement and run negative people off.
The negative people.
Really honored. So we're have a level 10 day. I'll always say that, and you're going to say it with me. Ready?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Hope is on the way.
Hope is on the way. Bye. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this show. I'm going to go watch it again because she said so much that's important. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to interview Brooke at 11 o'clock, and tune in. I'll be there wearing my new shirt, maybe. Yeah. Bye. Thank you. Thank you.